there's good governance in Texas by and large. So who cares about redistricting? In California, there's not good governance.
Typically, you don't redistrict just before the midterm elections. But in this case, it seems prudent. And that's the reason why Gavin Newsom is responding. So I say all of that to say Newsom's wrong, but I also feel that Abbott's wrong as well. And two wrongs don't make a right. And that's when you got this whole tit for tat thing.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
So a lot going on today. We could just jump right into it as always. But I think the biggest thing that I've been just watching right now, which I just think is absolutely bonkers crazy, is what the heck is going on with Gavin Newsom? Like, he has to take it to a whole new level. And I just say this because he is your de facto leader still, or not leader, I should say ruler, because you're in California, you're a resident of California. So he is still your de facto ruler. And what is going on there? I mean, obviously he's responding to the gerrymandering thing that Abbott and Trump have gotten together and are doing in Texas. And it got me to look into a little bit about what this is and how this obviously works. Obviously, gerrymandering, the history of it with he was a political representation that carries the name up in Maine or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. But either way, yes, there you go. Either way, what I didn't know is that California actually voted by like a 61% margin or something like that back in 2010 to have a commission, like an independent commission, to do the districting maps. And now I guess the push here that no one's talking about is that Newsom is trying to get a ballot measure by November to do the redistricting, because obviously he wants to position to be a hero right now, because there is no hero on the Democratic side. And he wants to emerge with the Hollywood bravado that he is. And obviously it's, I'm in response and I'm being a hero in response to the evilness of Abbott. What's your take on this and where this is going, and how's it feeling in California? Because you also have that sheriff that's running right now who's very vocal on social media. And he's like, I'm going to expose Newsom. And then also, I can't remember the name of the guy. I got to look it up, but his house got burned down in Palisades. You probably know what I'm talking about, Len, but I'll throw it over to you. What is going on with Newsom? Like, is this going to backfire for him?
So I think the right question is to ask what's going on with Abbott, because I think Newsom's name is in the social media atmosphere and the news wire because of his response to what Greg Abbott, your governor, is doing. And so when you look at gerrymandering and the genesis of it, when you look at just as a teacher, I used to teach this stuff. So when you think about the whole idea of representation, one person, one vote, it used to be one man, one vote, and then other people got the right to vote over time. So you have the representatives, the House of Representatives, and you have the Senate, and then you obviously have the presidential elections. And so all of those areas are supposed to represent the constituents, which is us, the American people. And so that, to me, what I believe is happening is that given the fumbles that Trump has been doing with regard to the Epstein. And then when you look at what's going on with Russia and what's going on with different things that are happening right now, Trump's popularity is starting to decline. And I think what's happening is there's this fear that the midterm elections are not going to go so well for the GOP. And so as a response to that, I think there was a phone call to Abbott to say, hey, why don't you consider doing some redistricting so that it can work out so we can get 5 more representatives from Texas. And so Gavin Newsom's like, wait a minute, you can't do that. And Texas is saying, yes, we can, because there isn't a rule in Texas that can't say, because what happens is, just to back up a little bit, typically what the general rule of thumb is that because there's a census every 10 years, the whole purpose of the census is to find out what the population change has been. And based on that population change, are the districts being fairly represented? And so typically every 10-year cycle, that's when states get together and the representatives get together and they district based on making sure that people's voices are adequately heard. Now, what's happening in Texas is that the mid-year is something that doesn't typically happen. And so it looks like from the Democratic side that they're looking to rig the election so they can get more seats. And so Gavin Newsom responds and says, hey, back up. You can't do that. And Texas is saying, yes, we can. So here's my whole synthesis just after that long buildup. Just to me, Gavin Newsom is wrong because the whole spirit of California and having this group of people that are outside of, an independent group, the whole purpose for them being independent is so political people that have their own seats at stake aren't in the process. I think that is a better and more fair way to do it. Now, Texas doesn't have those same rules. And so to me, it's like this. Just because there isn't a rule, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay and that it's right to do. And so just like think about it like this. I remember when I used to go to Vegas all the time and there was this thing that started coming up and I started expecting my hotel bill to be about $400 or $500, but instead it was about $650 to $750 because of this hidden tax called the resort fee. Now, a resort fee isn't illegal, but it's not cool. It's kind of unethical to add that in there. And so their argument is, well, it's in the fine print. You should know about that. And I think the same analogy applies to Texas. Typically, you don't redistrict just before the midterm elections. But in this case, it seems prudent. And that's the reason why Gavin Newsom is responding. So I say all of that to say Newsom's wrong, but I also feel that Abbott's wrong as well. And two wrongs don't make a right. And that's when you got this whole tit for tat thing. So I could keep going on, but I'll turn it over to you. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I definitely like the idea that California has with having a committee, because anytime you could take out that type of thing, it's kind of almost like accounts receivable should not be in sales, right? And sales should not be in accounts receivable, right? Like whoever's selling this should not ultimately be doing the accounting, right? So I agree with the whole independent commission. I think that's great. I think that's really great in a state like California, where clearly it is completely dominated or held on one side of the aisle. And for whatever reason, that's a totally different topic for conversation on how and why that happened, or the 20, 30 years of political erosion in the wrong way that's happened in California, because California used to be that place. But I understand, I don't agree with it either. It is unusual timing in Texas. It's very unusual timing to do that. But at the same time, if I look at it, it's political advantage. So if we're looking at it clearly from a political game, it's almost like Newsom has a 50-50 chance of actually becoming a hero or falling on the sword with it. Abbott, it's not really going to piss anybody off because he's popular in Texas. He's doing a good job. The state had a $30 billion surplus in its budget, I think the year before or last year or something to that effect. So clearly Texas is not struggling to attract capital or residents. If anything, it's like dealing with all that absorption because people want to live here. So I don't think really many people even really care about that. Now, is it wrong for him to do it? Yes. Yeah, there's a political move. Trump made a call. Hey, we want to do this for the greater of the party. Abbott's a party guy. He's going to say, yeah, we could do it. It could be accomplished. I'm sure he made the call to other governors of other states, but this is probably the state that's the easiest and has the most impact. I don't know how it works in Florida. I don't know, maybe if DeSantis and Trump are close, they don't seem to really be close, but they don't really fight.
Depends on the day.
I think, so I think, I don't think really anybody can really be friends with Trump like that. I mean, there's just Trump and that's it, but politically anyways, but especially politically. And rightfully so. If that's the way he wants to be CEO or commander in chief and president, he wants to be a very inclusive or all hands on president. That's fine. That's who we're getting. Some presidents are very hands off, right? But at any rate, or sideline, whatever you want to call it, at any rate, politically, I think it's a political weapon. I think they use it at the right time. I think it's going to be very effective for the right, for Republicans. But at the same time, there's good governance in Texas by and large. So who cares about redistricting? In California, there's not good governance. So redistricting, please redistricting so there's more conservative leaning categories, just simply because, not because I want more of it, but because it's healthy, right? I mean, you can't have all right or all left. You got to have a balance, and in California there isn't one. I'm very interested to see. I think what I don't like about Newsom is he's just doing it for his own good. He's the biggest narcissist in the world. I mean, I've seen some pretty crazy narcissists, but he's all in it for himself. He does not care about California. He doesn't care about the greater of the country. I mean, he's been puppeted and born and raised and groomed by Pelosi and who's the other guy there that thought Russiagate was real with the bald head?
No, not Schumer.
Not Schumer.
Schiff.
Schiff and Nadler in New York. I mean, these guys have been engineering and pulling him up. Now that Kamala has opened the door, I think he's just politically motivated to do it. But I don't think it's going to go through. Most California voters, even still today, as crazy it is, 60%, I think it's even 64% still favor to not do this and not redistrict. So I just think he's trying to get the last piece of gas out of his political aspirations. But here's the reality. Anybody that knows Newsom, anybody that knows California, it's a laughing stock. I mean, everybody looks at California and him and goes, he's crazy. That guy is crazy. The state is crazy. Fiscally, it's crazy. How do you turn the best innovation and the best minds into all that it has in that state right now? But I think he's just doing it for politicals. But should he win it and get this done? Woo! Wow. I mean, that would be crazy, Len. If we got redistricting, it passes a special measure in November, and he makes a run and does something. Oh my God, how crazy would that be? But crazier things have happened. Either way, I think it's wrong on both sides. I don't think it should happen, but I get it. And if I can't say if I wasn't in the same position that Trump is in, I can't say I wouldn't make the same position, just simply on the merits that there's good governance in Texas, there's not in California, and we got to keep the train rolling in what I would say in the first 6 months. Yes, there's been a lot of crazy, dumb stuff done, but I would say that this administration in its first 6-8 months, I feel we're on the right track in a lot of ways, more than we're not in wrong ways. So on that merit, I would say go for it. But overall, I would say I don't agree with it, just because you're meddling with that free enterprise or that free election system. Whenever you do that, weird things happen. And that's the whole premise of all of these tinkering things that happen. So that's my 2 cents on it, Len, on that one.
So, okay. So you brought up a lot to unpack. And so I would say, okay, you talked about good governance in Texas. And so to me, for Trump's perspective, it's not really about the governance in Texas. I think when you look at the Republican Party, there's a very narrow lead in the House. And when you look at the narrow lead they have overall, you're talking about the balance of power as it relates to voting over the second term. And so after the midterm elections, if those few red seats turn blue, now the shift of power, the balance of power begins to shift to the other side. So I don't believe
what's wrong with that though.
Gavin Newsom
what's wrong with that though
in changing the districts in California. And the reason why is because I think for those of us in California, we are, pretty pragmatic. And I think, there's this conflict that's happening because the Democratic Party doesn't have a real established leader. And Gavin Newsom is the one that's positioning himself to be the next president elect, I believe. And, you can tell, like, when, for example, he trolls Trump with his Twitter account all the time. And I think one of the issues that the Democratic Party has been suffering from is that there's no fighters. And so we live in a copycat society. When you look at sports, if there's a team that has a prolific offense and an okay defense, then they'll start, taking their resources and moving them to the offense, and vice versa with defense. And I think the same is true with leadership styles. I think in the past, demure, classy, well-spoken, humble, magnanimous presidents have been the ones that have been able to win. Lately, once Trump took over, he changed that. And I think, brash, tell it like it is, strong man, force your identity, make others feel weak around you. There's a sexiness to it. There's an appeal to that. And he's also got the charisma to bolster that. And so people are saying, okay, that's the playbook. So let me go ahead and replicate that. And that's what Gavin Newsom is doing. That's why he sat down with Steve O'Bannon and he started talking to different people who were on the MAGA side to show that he's more of a centrist as opposed to extreme left. And so he's definitely positioning himself. And I just think that the problem is that, yes, Texas governance, you could argue, has been good, but the real big picture is really the shift of power going from red to blue. And I just don't think that a tit for tat approach that Newsom's trying to do is really the right thing to do. But I understand why he's doing it, because he wants to appear powerful. That whole idea of, when they go low, it's like, no, we go right there low with you. If you want to go there, we can do that. And as opposed to when they go low, we go high. That formula seems like it didn't work so well. And so I think the Democrats are readjusting their approach. And so that's what I think is taking place.
Well, I mean, and right. I mean, I get your point on the go low, go high. But I mean, both sides have been doing it for a long time, but the playbook has been go low for a long time.
No doubt.
On the other side. I mean, realistically, Trump could take his DOJ and run.
You can argue on both sides, man. You can definitely argue on both sides.
100%. But the oppressive nature of no, you're good. The oppressive nature of the Department of Justice underneath Biden and previous administrations was completely unheard of in prefer private citizen. But he could do all they want, and I don't really think that Trump has gone really low. I really don't. I just think that he's outsmarted a lot of people. And he's got a way better team around him right now. And I think they're grasping at straws because everything they try to do is just fleeting. It's just kind of going out their hands. It's just, and that's the reason why they don't have leadership. They don't have leadership because no one there really understands what they actually want to do to the country besides line their own pockets. And I think that goes for both sides, but primarily there's really no Democratic leader that has a vision for the country at this point. And here's the other thing too. Would we really want to eat, just looking at it, and I know we're not comparing like for like, but just executive to executive, who the heck would want to hire Newsom to run anything? The guy can't even run the state of California. And nobody in California can say that state's better off today than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. It just simply isn't. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, no one can agree with me. Say that state is better in any measurable level right now. It's sad to see what it's done. But I think that it's going to be an interesting November. I understand why they're doing it, but I see the redistricting thing and the move as if we don't do it, and let's say Trump didn't make that call, assuming he did it, and Abbott does the redistricting in Texas, and let's say it flips one way, Len, and all of a sudden we have a balance of power flips over. I don't think that's a good thing for the country at all. Because then at this point, nothing will get done for another 2 years. Nothing. We're going to get stuck here, and it's all going to be about blocking Trump and blocking whatever he's doing because everything he's doing is so evil. And I love these guys. They say, oh my God, he's so evil and the world is falling apart. And it's everything like, no, everything's going back together again. The world was falling apart for the last 7-8 years if no one's seen it happening. And it's because we couldn't get anything done. Because the balance of power, we shouldn't need a balance of power. And it's just unfortunately, both are wrong. Whether I argue this side or that side, or you argue this side or that side, we really need to sit down constructively and go, we really need to do something here as far as term limits. And I think that solves everything. I know we're not talking about that, but I think term limits solves the whole gerrymandering issue as well, because who cares? You can only serve president this amount of times. You should only be able to serve in the House of Reps 2 times or 3 times, in the Senate once or twice. Like, put term limits on these people so that They term out, governors term out. Why can't we term these reps out, House of Reps out? That's, I think, is the biggest thing. And if we have an opportunity to do it, whoever has the opportunity to do it with a balance of power ought to put that in, where they have a majority or something to that effect, just because I think you'd agree with me that getting rid of the gerrymandering thing is just get term limits.
Yeah, I think gerrymandering will always be an issue just because of human nature. I think humans will do anything they can to get an advantage. And whenever you have one team against another, strategy is just part of human nature. So I don't think you'll get rid of that. However, I do agree with your point wholeheartedly about the importance of term limits because, you could argue that the president has the most power to get the most done, yet they have a 2-term limit. And I think that's good. I think when you look at a 6-year time period for a senator and a 2-year time period for a House of Representative, they can still continue to win over and over and over. And as long as they're popular, they're going to do that. Unfortunately, that's because people don't really participate in the midterm elections. And so, you can make the argument for the importance of having compulsory elections because at least you'd hear from everybody. But as a person who believes in freedom of choice, I don't think that's a good idea either. So to wrap up this point in a bow is I do agree with you that having term limits for the House and the Senate is really critical so that people can begin to understand that you're there to serve the people and you do it for a period of time. You're not there to garner power and increase that power for personal gain. Like that's what's happening right now. So I agree with you.
Yes, and with that being said, guys, thanks for joining, for watching. If you enjoyed this, we'd love to hear your comments in there. If you want to see something else, you want to see us two crazy people talk about stuff, then let us know. We're more than happy to do it. But until then, always a pleasure to talk to you and be with you, Len. And here's the best part. Regardless of what we talk about, we love it and we enjoy it because we're friends afterwards and we're business partners afterwards. And we're going to go and enjoy life afterwards and go. That was some pretty funny stuff right there. Because at the end of the day, you and I are going to control our circumstances because we are not victims of our circumstances. We are masters of our circumstances. So with that being said, never above, never decide. Appreciate your Len, always, all the time. See you guys on the next one.
Take care, man.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.